What happens when multinational companies can't innovate anymore? If you're a CEO of a giant multinational company that is too big to fail, you just continue innovating and being great in your field. But that's not enough. Then you would buy the smaller, younger companies that are struggling and use their patents and experience to get bigger and bigger. You'll also make sure there isn't any startup in the field that can take your market share in the future. And that's it, right? Well, there's another chapter in your journey as a CEO of a giant company. When you kill any potential competition, buy some other successful companies and become a giant in your field, then you'll face your biggest problem. Yes, as unbelievable as it might seem, now your problem is you're too rich and you already know that you're at the top of your field. The innovation in the field is simply not catching up with the flow of money. In other words, you have billions of dollars of profits, but you have already invested billions of dollars in all innovative projects in your field, and all the new ideas are already flooded with your money and they cannot take more funding. These innovative projects are also going to be successful and generate even more money, and you just can't invest more in these fields. You might say, well, that's great. The company is very successful after all. The problem is the money is too big to just sit in a corner. Your shareholders will never be satisfied. They want growth all the time. When cash is piling up, it cannot be sitting there for too long and slowly lose its value to inflation. And this is when things start to get weird. Yes, you guessed it right. Why not invest in other fields totally unrelated to your current business? When you have billions of dollars, you are simply too big to fail, even in the fields that you have no experience in whatsoever. So you put together the best team of economists and data analyzers to see which fields are the best to venture into. They decide on a great field of business that can help you get rid of billions of dollars of cash and turn it into investments with cash flow. Problem solved? Well, not really. The new field you suddenly decided to pour your billions into is already dominated by another giant company that has always been in the field. But you can still be the second company in the new field. It's better than not investing at all, right? So you lose no time and jump into the fire and announce your glorious arrival.
Apple roared into the TV game with a morning show, a superb drama, a superb drama about the importance of dignity and doing the right thing, made by a company that runs sweatshops in China. So, well, you say you're woke, but the companies you work for, I mean, unbelievable. Apple, Amazon, Disney. If ISIS started a streaming service, you'd call your agent.
Well, not the welcome party you expected, but no worries. Now you realize you're not the only billionaire with the best financial knowledge. There are other multinationals with billions of dollars who have the problem of too much cash too, just like you. They're also going out of their fields to invest their billions. And as we know, the people at the top of the corporate world have the same amount of access to precious macro data. So they're all drawn towards the same industries, and they know which industries are going to be the best in the next 10 years. You soon realize this is not going to be a market with 2 or 3 major competitors like you're used to, because your billionaire friends are showing up in the party one by one. And when there are suddenly so many multinationals entering the room at the same time, the inevitable will happen. In this video, we're going to dive into one of the most interesting tech competitions in history, a war that can lead to bankruptcies, historical innovations, emergence of services that never existed before, and much more. I'm Sam, and this is How Sony Won the Streaming Wars. The streaming wars really kicked into high gear with the launch of Disney Plus in November 2019. But the main phase started with something else, something that sits everyone down on their couches in front of their TVs, even the people who didn't used to spend much time on entertainment. The global pandemic created a captive audience, desperately bored people under mental pressure of uncertainty, needing to distract themselves without leaving the house. This was when Disney really started to claim its territory. For parents locked in a house with a couple of kids for an extended period, Disney Plus was an essential service. This created an illusion of real growth and sustainability, and the profits were so rapidly expanding that nobody was willing to acknowledge that this way of service providing is just unsustainable and will eventually collapse. But no giant is going down without a fight. And this is how things really get ugly. Who is the winner? The customers, the artists, or one of the streaming companies? Let's see. When you look at the most popular social media platforms today, we see some sort of coexistence. They each have their own unique factors, and most of the users are using all these platforms at the same time. So we can imagine a world where all streaming companies coexist and are successful, just like different social media platforms today, right? Streaming services are not free. We, the customers, are directly paying money to them. And when some type of service isn't free, most people are going to choose the best one and say goodbye to all the others. They might subscribe to more than one streaming service for a while, but sooner or later, they're going to keep only one. It's not only the biggest competition in technology's history, but it's also different from all previous tech rivalries we've ever seen. It's not a horse race. Not everyone will get to the finish line. Some must die. The real struggle started after the world went back to normal and people started leaving their houses as often as the past. So to keep things going and growing, the streaming services had only one option, an ugly one. They had to bite the hand that fed them. After burning billions during the gold rush, now facing the rainy days, streaming services started becoming a lot more frugal. Netflix started a crackdown on password sharing, and even deep-pocketed giants like Amazon are cutting their spending on films and television. Companies like Warner Bros. Have completely scrapped almost finished movies rather than sending them to streaming, and even removed existing titles from their libraries. There's been a big number of high-profile project cancellations, with many shows being discontinued. But the real damage to the customer isn't a few shows being cancelled. It seems like studios are trying to push back the clock. The disruptor of the old TV have announced ad-supported subscriptions, which basically means reintroducing television advertising. Streaming services are no longer dropping shows like The Rings of Power at midnight, but instead they schedule them to line up with the American primetime broadcast slots. Streaming now looks more and more similar to television, and that's what nobody saw coming. You can never predict the result of a war. As a result of the crackdown on password sharing, Netflix has grown its user base again, but its revenue growth is still not promising. Disney Plus lost 11.7 million subscribers and $512 million in the second quarter of 2023, bringing total losses on the service to more than $11 billion. Yes, 11 billions with a B. Peacock gained 2 million subscribers in the second quarter of 2023, but lost $651 million. Paramount's direct-to-consumer businesses lost $424 million in the same period. And all these losses are just the recent ones. They've been bleeding billions for quite some time now. After an intense few years of heated combat, it seems like no one has really won. All the streaming services look happy with their current revenue, and they're just trying to cut the costs without losing the subscriptions, instead of pushing each other out of business. The strategies are more focused on making more money with the same number of subscriptions, rather than the competitive strategies based on damaging the others. But if you ask who really won the streaming wars, the answer might surprise you. Sony never jumped on the streaming gold rush when the opportunity was there. Instead, the company figured out the safest way to get rich during a gold rush, and that is to sell the shovels. Sony survived the Battle of Giants by becoming the biggest arms dealer on the battlefield. Theatrically released movies tend to do better on streaming, and Sony had already figured out a sustainable way of producing popular movies and franchises with an infrastructure to distribute them in theaters smoothly and without much trouble. The streaming wars only led to better and more lucrative deals for Sony. So Sony basically acted like Switzerland in the middle of World War II, and it sold its theater movies and other products to anyone who wanted to pay. Instead of losing billions on the battlefield, Sony continued to make billions since the beginning of the streaming wars. Who do you think are the real winners and losers here? Tell me in the comment section. If you like more videos like this, you can watch them here, and please press the like button and subscribe to the channel. See you on the next journey.